My friends, life is full of burdens, uncertainties, and challenges that we cannot carry on our own. The weight of fear, the pressure of success, the pain of the past, and the worries of tomorrow can press down on our hearts, leaving us weary and discouraged. We try to fix things with our own strength. We try to find solutions with our own wisdom. But time and time again, we come to the end of ourselves, realizing that I know enough. But I have good news for you today. There is one who is greater than our fears, stronger than our struggles, and wiser than our understanding. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He knows the number of hairs on your head. He sees every tear that falls from your eyes, and He knows the deepest desires of your heart. And He is calling you to trust Him completely. When the storms of life rage around you, put everything in His hands. When you don't understand why doors are closing, put everything in His hands. When your dreams seem distant, your strength is failing, put everything in His hands. Because His hands form the heavens and the earth. His hands stretched out to heal the sick. His hands were nailed to a cross to carry the weight of your sin and your pain. And those same hands are reaching out to you today. Nothing is too big for Him. Nothing is too small for Him. He is not overwhelmed by your struggles, and He is not indifferent to your pain. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Rest from fear, rest from anxiety, rest from trying to figure it all out on your own. When you surrender everything into His hands, He will lead you, He will strengthen you, and He will carry you through. So do not hold back. Do not hesitate. Do not let doubt keep you from placing your life in His care. Trust Him, lean on Him, and watch how He moves in ways you never expected. Give Him your struggles, your hopes, your dreams, your fears. Give Him everything, and He will do what only He can do. Life's challenges are too heavy to carry alone. We often try to handle our fears, struggles, and uncertainties with our own strength. But we reach a point where we realize we are not enough. God is greater than every struggle. He knows our fears, sees our pain, and understands our hearts better than we do. He is in control of everything. Trust God completely in every situation. No matter what storms come, we must surrender our worries, dreams, and struggles into His hands, knowing He is faithful. God's hands are strong and compassionate, the same hands that created the universe, healed the sick, and bore the weight of our sins are reaching out to help us today. True rest comes from surrendering to God. When we give everything to Him, He replaces our fear with peace, our weakness with strength, and our confusion with direction. God will move in unexpected and powerful ways when we trust Him fully. He works beyond what we can imagine, leading us and carrying us through life's difficulties. Life is filled with challenges, struggles, and burdens that can feel overwhelming. No matter who we are, no matter where we come from, every single one of us faces difficulties that test our strength and shake our confidence. We wake up each day with responsibilities pressing in on us, with worries about the future, with regrets from the past, and battles that seem impossible to win. We carry the weight of financial struggles, health concerns, broken relationships, and uncertain paths. And despite our best efforts, despite our determination to keep going, there comes a moment when we realize that the load is too heavy to bear on our own. We live in a world that teaches us to rely on ourselves, to push through, to be strong, and to never show weakness. We are told that success comes to those who work the hardest, that problems are solved by those who never give up, and that asking for help is a sign of failure. So we try, we fight, we push forward. We tell ourselves that if we just work a little harder, if we just stay a little stronger, everything will fall into place. But deep down, we know the truth: our strength has limits. Our wisdom has limits. Our ability to control everything around us is limited. And sooner or later, we come to the end of ourselves, realizing that no matter how much we try, we cannot do it all alone. Fear begins to creep in when we face situations beyond our control. We worry about tomorrow, about how things will turn out, about whether or not we are making the right decisions. We feel the pressure to be everything to everyone, to be the perfect parent, the perfect friend, the perfect leader. We try to fix every problem, to mend every broken piece, to hold everything together, but the weight of it all begins to crush us. And when the answers don't come, when the solutions seem out of reach, we feel exhausted, frustrated, and lost. Some of us carry burdens from our past that we wish we could erase, the mistakes we've made, the regrets that haunt us, the pain of things we cannot change. They weigh heavily on our hearts. We replay our failures over and over again, wondering if we will ever be free from the shame and guilt. We try to move forward, but the past keeps pulling us back. No matter how much we try to push it aside, it lingers, whispering lies that tell us we will never be good enough, never be worthy, never be free. Others are struggling with the uncertainty of the future. The world feels unstable. Plans fall apart. The things we thought we could count on suddenly shift, leaving us feeling helpless and afraid. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know if the doors we are knocking on will open. We don't know if the dreams we hold in our hearts will ever come to pass. And the more we try to figure it out, the more anxious we become, because deep down we know that we are not in control. Then there are those who are simply tired of fighting, tired of pretending, tired of carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. They wake up every morning feeling drained, with nothing left to give. They smile on the outside, inside they are barely holding on. They want to believe that things will get better, but the weight of life is pressing down too hard. No one is meant to carry such burdens alone. No one is meant to face the storms of life without help. The truth is, we were never created to rely solely on our own strength. We were never meant to figure everything out by ourselves. There is a limit to what we can handle. And when we reach that limit, we are faced with a choice to keep struggling on our own, or to place everything in the hands of the one who has no limits, no weaknesses, and no failures. There is nothing in this world that is beyond God's power, nothing too big for Him to handle, and nothing hidden from His sight. He is the creator of all things, the one who spoke the universe into existence, the one who set the stars in their place and told the oceans where to stop. He is not limited by time, by circumstances, or by the struggles that seem impossible to us. He sees everything, He knows everything, and He holds all things together in His hands. No matter what we face, no matter how difficult the road ahead may seem, God is greater than every struggle, every fear, and every uncertainty. Life has a way of making us feel small, of making our problems seem larger than life, of making us believe that there is no way out. The storms of life can come suddenly and unexpectedly, leaving us feeling helpless and afraid. We encounter sickness that doctors cannot cure, financial struggles that seem impossible to overcome, relationships that break apart despite our best efforts. We face disappointments that shake our faith, losses that leave us broken, and trials that test our endurance. And in those moments, it can be easy to forget just how great our God truly is. Fear begins to creep in when we focus on the size of our problems rather than the power of our God. Worry takes hold when we allow doubt to whisper lies that tell us our struggles are too big, too complicated, or too far gone for even God to handle. But the truth is, nothing is beyond His reach. Nothing is outside of His control. He is the same God who parted the Red Sea, the same God who calmed the storm with a single word, the same God who raised the dead to life. And if He can do all of that, there is nothing in our lives that is too difficult for Him. When we feel weak, He is strong. When we are uncertain, He is unshakable. When we are broken, He is the healer. He does not grow tired. He does not grow weary. He does not turn away when we come to Him with our burdens. He does not abandon us when we feel like giving up. He does not see us as too far gone or too messed up. Instead, He reaches out with love, with grace, with power. And He reminds us that He is greater than anything we will ever face. God is not surprised by our struggles. He is not caught off guard by the things that weigh us down. He knew every challenge we would face before we were even born. He saw every tear we would cry, every battle we would fight, and every moment we would feel like we couldn't go on. And He has already made a way through it. He has already gone before us. He has already prepared the answer. There is no situation too hopeless for Him to redeem. There is no pain too deep for Him to heal. There is no mistake too big for Him to forgive. The very things that we think will break us are the things that He can use to build us. The very trials that we think will destroy us are the ones He can use to strengthen our faith. He takes what is broken and makes it whole. He takes what is lost and brings it back. He takes what seems impossible and makes a way where there is no way. The question is not whether or not God is able. The question is whether or not we will trust Him, whether or not we will believe that He is greater than our struggles, whether or not we will choose to lean on Him instead of our own understanding. Because He is bigger than our doubts, bigger than our fears, bigger than our weaknesses, and bigger than anything we will ever face. Trust is not always easy. Life teaches us to be cautious, to rely on what we can see, to hold on to control as tightly as we can. We are told to have backup plans, to prepare for the worst, to never put ourselves in a position where we are vulnerable. But true trust in God requires us to let go. It requires us to release our grip on the things we cannot control and place them in the hands of the one who can. It means believing that even when we don't see a way, He is already making one. It means surrendering not just the parts of our lives that are easy to give up, but everything, our fears, our dreams, our struggles, and our uncertainties. Life is unpredictable. One moment everything seems to be going well, and the next we are facing challenges we never expected. Doors we thought would open suddenly close. Plans we made fall apart. Relationships that seemed unshakable begin to crumble. And in those moments, doubt begins to whisper that we are on our own, that no one sees, that no one cares. The temptation is to try and fix everything ourselves, to work harder, to figure things out with our understanding. But the more we strive, the more we realize that we are limited. Our wisdom is not enough. Our strength is not enough. Our ability to control the outcome is not enough. Trusting God means acknowledging that He knows what we do not. He sees what is ahead when we cannot. He understands the full picture when we only see a small part. There are times when we pray for something, believing it is best for us, only to later realize that God had something better in store. What we thought was rejection was actually His protection. What we thought was delay was actually His preparation. He is not ignoring us. He is not holding back from us. He is leading us, guiding us, and shaping us into who He created us to be. But trust requires action. It is not simply saying we believe, it is living in a way that reflects that belief. It is refusing to let fear control our decisions. It is choosing faith when doubt tries to take over. It is stepping forward in obedience, even when we don't understand where the path leads. Trusting God does not mean we will never face difficulties. It does not mean that everything will always go the way we want it to. But it does mean that no matter what happens, we are never alone. It means that even in the darkest moments, He is there, working all things for our good. So many times we hesitate, we hold back. We give God some areas of our lives, but try to manage the rest ourselves. We trust Him with our Sundays, but not with our Mondays. We trust Him with our eternity, but not with our finances. We trust Him with our salvation, but not with our relationships. But partial trust is not trust at all. He calls us to surrender everything. He calls us to place our lives fully in His hands, knowing that He is able to do far more than we could ever ask or imagine. Trusting God completely means resting in His promises. It means knowing that He is faithful even when circumstances seem uncertain. It means believing that He is in control, even when everything around us feels out of control. It means standing firm, even when life tries to shake us. His ways are higher than our ways. His plans are greater than our plans. And when we trust Him fully, we will see him move in ways we never expected, opening doors we never imagined, and leading us into a future that is beyond anything we could create on our own. The hands of God are not like the hands of men. Human hands are limited in strength and reach and power. They grow weary, they tremble under pressure, they lose their grip. But the hands of God are eternal, strong, and unshakable. They formed the universe, stretched out the heavens, and shaped the earth. They hold the oceans in place, command the stars, and sustain all of creation. Those same hands are reaching out to us, ready to carry what we cannot, to lift what is too heavy, to heal what is broken, and to restore what has been lost. The hands of God are hands of power. Throughout history, they have worked miracles, making a way when there was none. When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea, pursued by their enemies with no escape in sight, it was the hand of God that parted the waters, leading them to safety. When the hungry had no food, it was his hands that multiplied the loaves and fish, providing more than enough. When the sick, the blind, and the lame cried out for help, it was his hands that brought healing, restoring sight, strength, and wholeness. And when death itself seemed final, when hope seemed lost, it was his hands that rolled away the stone, proving that nothing is impossible for him. The hands of God are hands of compassion. When the world turns its back, when people walk away, when we feel forgotten, his hands remain open, welcoming us. He does not push us away because of our failures, our weaknesses, or our mistakes. Instead, he reaches out with love, drawing us close, holding us in his embrace. His hands lift the weary, comfort the brokenhearted, and wipe away every tear. No one is too far gone, no sin is too great, no life is too shattered for the hands of God to restore. The hands of God are hands of sacrifice. When sin separated humanity from him, when we were lost in darkness, unable to save ourselves, his hands bore the weight of our punishment. They were stretched out on a cross, pierced for our sins, wounded so that we could be healed, nailed so that we could be set free. The hands that created the world allowed themselves to be broken, not because he was weak, but because his love for us was stronger than death. The scars remain as a reminder of what he was willing to endure, of the price he paid, of the depth of his mercy and grace. The hands of God are hands of security. When we place our lives in his hands, we are safe. No storm can shake us, no enemy can snatch us away, no trial can separate us from his love. He holds us firmly, leading us step by step, guiding us even when we do not understand the path ahead. He does not let go. He does not lose his grip. He does not grow weary of holding us, even when we stumble, even when we doubt, even when we feel like giving up. His hands are steady, unchanging, and sure. The hands of God are hands of purpose. He is not just holding us, he is shaping us, molding us, preparing us for something greater than we can imagine. Just as a potter shapes clay, just as an artist carves a masterpiece, his hands are at work in our lives, refining us, strengthening us, transforming us. What may feel like breaking is actually his process of building. What may seem like delay is actually his perfect timing. His hands are always moving, always working, always bringing his plans to fulfillment. And when we place our lives in his hands, we can be sure that we are exactly where we are meant to be. There is a rest that the world cannot give, a peace that cannot be found in human effort, a stillness that can only come when we surrender completely to God. So many people are running, striving, pushing themselves to the limit, trying to hold everything together, trying to control the outcomes of their lives. Worry fills their minds, stress weighs on their hearts, and fear grips their souls. They lie awake at night, playing scenarios over and over in their heads, trying to figure out how to fix things, how to make things work, how to find relief from the pressures of life. But no matter how hard they try, they cannot find true rest, because true rest is not found in human strength. It is found in surrendering to the one who holds all things together. God never intended for us to carry the burdens of life alone. He never asked us to figure everything out, to force things to happen, to live in a constant state of worry and exhaustion. He calls us to come to Him, to lay our burdens at His feet, to release the weight of our struggles into His hands. He offers rest, not just a temporary escape, not just a brief moment of relief, but a deep, lasting rest that goes beyond our circumstance. It is a rest that quiets the anxious thoughts, calms the restless heart, and fills the soul with peace. So many times we resist surrendering to God because we think we need to be in control. We convince ourselves that if we just try a little harder, if we just push a little further, we can fix everything on our own. But control is an illusion. We are not in control of the future. We are not in control of what happens around us. We are not even in control of the next breath we take. The more we try to control things, the more we realize how powerless we really are. And the more we resist surrendering, the more exhausted we become. God's rest is not about inactivity, it is about trust. It does not mean that we stop working, that we stop pursuing our goals, that we stop doing what we are called to do. It means that we stop striving in our own strength, that we stop carrying burdens that were never meant for us to carry, that we stop living with the weight of worry and fear on our shoulders. It means trusting that God is in control, that He is working behind the scenes, that He is making a way even when we cannot see it. When we surrender to God, we find freedom. Freedom from the need to have all the answers. Freedom from the pressure to figure everything out. Freedom from the fears that keep us awake at night. We can move forward with confidence, not because we know every detail of the future, but because we know the one who holds the future in His hands. We can face uncertainties without fear, knowing that He is guiding every step, opening the right doors, closing the wrong ones, and leading us exactly where we need to be. Resting in God does not mean that life will always be easy, that trials will never come, that we will never face difficulties. But it does mean that we do not have to face them alone. It means that when the storms of life rage around us, we can stand firm, knowing that He is our refuge. It means that when we feel weak, He will be our strength. It means that when we do not understand what is happening, we can trust that He is working all things for our good. Peace does not come from having everything figured out. Peace comes from knowing that even when we don't have the answers, God does. Even when we don't know the way He is leading us, even when we don't understand the why, He is working for a greater purpose. And when we let go of our need to control, when we surrender everything into His hands, we will find the deep, unshakable rest that only He can give. God is always at work, even when we cannot see it. He moves in ways we do not expect, opening doors that seem forever closed, making a way where there was no way, turning situations around when all hope appeared lost. He is not limited by human understanding, nor is He bound by earthly constraints. What seems impossible to us is not impossible for Him. What appears to be a dead end is, in His hands, the beginning of something greater. He is always working, always moving, always fulfilling His perfect plan in ways beyond what we could ever imagine. Many times we try to predict how God will work in our lives. We set expectations thinking He will answer our prayers in a specific way, at a specific time, through a specific path. But His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. When He moves, it is often in ways we never anticipated. What we thought was a delay was actually His perfect timing. What we assumed was a rejection was actually His redirection towards something better. He is never late, never mistaken, never absent. Every moment, every situation, every challenge is part of a greater plan that He is unfolding for our good and His glory. There are times when we pray, when we seek Him, when we ask for His guidance, yet we do not see immediate answers. We wonder if He hears us, if He is paying attention, if He is really working on our behalf. But just because we do not see movement does not mean He is not moving. Just because we do not see changes right away does not mean He is not preparing something greater. The greatest works of God often happen in the unseen, in the moments when we think nothing is happening. The seed that is planted in the ground does not grow overnight, but beneath the surface, in the soil, something is taking root. In the same way, God is working beneath the surface of our lives, putting things in place, aligning circumstances, strengthening our faith, and preparing us for the blessings to come. Sometimes God works in ways that seem unusual to us. He uses people we least expect, opportunities that look different from what we envision, and situations that seem insignificant at first but later turn out to be life-changing. In the Bible, he used a young shepherd boy named David to defeat a giant, a humble fisherman named Peter to spread the gospel, and a small lunch of 5 loaves and 2 fish to feed thousands. God does not always use the most obvious or expected methods, but he always uses the best methods. What looks ordinary to us can become extraordinary in his hands. Our responsibility is not to figure out how God will move, but to trust that he will. We are called to be faithful, to remain steadfast, to believe even when we do not yet see. When we surrender our plans to him, when we stop trying to control every detail, when we put everything in his hands, we give him room to do what only he can do. And when he moves, when he answers, when he opens doors, it will be beyond anything we could have done in our own strength. God's ways are always higher, always wiser, always perfect. He is never caught off guard, never unsure, never uncertain. He has gone before us, making a way, preparing blessings, and setting things in motion that we do not yet understand. And when the time is right, when his perfect plan unfolds, we will look back and see that he was working all along. That every delay had a purpose, that every closed door was leading to something better, and that his faithfulness never wavered. He is always moving, always working, always leading us toward the future he has prepared. When we put everything in God's hands, we are not letting go of hope, we are embracing it fully. We are not giving up, we are trusting that his high is higher, that his timing is perfect, and that his plans are always greater than our own. Life will always present challenges, uncertainties, and moments when we do not understand what is happening or why. There will be times when we feel as though we are walking in darkness, unsure of the next step, afraid of what lies ahead. But even in those moments, even in the silence, even in the waiting, God is still working. He is still leading. He is still holding us in his hands. The choice to surrender everything to God is not always easy. It requires faith to trust when answers do not come right away. It takes courage to keep walking forward when we cannot see the whole picture. It takes humility to acknowledge that our understanding is limited, that our strength is not enough, and that our best efforts cannot compare to what God can do. But when we choose to place our lives in his hands fully, completely, without reservation, we step into a peace that nothing in this world can offer. The burdens we carry were never meant to be ours alone. The worries that weigh us down, the fears that keep us awake at night, the struggles we fight in our own strength, none of these are too big for God. He invites us to come to him, to lay everything at his feet, to trust that he is more than able to handle what we cannot. He sees every tear. He knows every pain. He understands every fear. And yet he calls us to release it all into his hands, knowing that he is working for our good. Surrender does not mean weakness. It means confidence in the one who holds all things together. It does not mean that we stop moving forward. It means that we walk in faith, knowing that God is guiding every step. It does not mean that we will never face difficulties. It means that in every trial, in every challenge, in every moment of uncertainty, we are not alone. He is with us. He goes before us. He fights our battles. And when we trust in him, we will never be shaken. The greatest peace comes not from having everything figured out, but from knowing that we don't have to. The greatest strength comes not from relying on ourselves, but from leaning on the one who is all-powerful. The greatest rest comes not from escaping life's challenges, but from trusting that even in the midst of them, God is working, moving, and making a way. There is nothing too big for him, nothing too complicated for him, nothing beyond his reach. When we place our lives in his hands, we can rest in the assurance that he is in control. Faith is not about seeing the whole picture, it is about trusting the one who does. It is not about understanding every detail. It is about believing that God is weaving every moment, every challenge, every victory into a plan that is far greater than anything we could imagine. When we trust him fully, when we put everything in his hands, We will see his faithfulness in ways we never expected. Doors will open that we never could have opened on our own. Strength will come when we feel we have nothing left to give. Miracles will happen in places we never thought possible. There is freedom in surrender. There is peace in trust. There is power in faith. And when we let go of the need to control, when we choose to believe that God's hands are stronger than our own, we will walk in a joy that cannot be shaken, a strength that cannot be taken away, and a hope that is unbreakable. Because in his hands we are safe. In his hands we are secure. In his hands we will see the fullness of his promises come to pass.